All right, gang, coming up on the show right now, we have a really cool interview. I'm excited for you guys to see. Great looking horror film, Alone at Night, just came out this weekend, starring someone that I think we've gotten familiar with the show, her return. Uh, the great Pamela Anderson to a horror movie. But the movie is Alone at Night. It looks very exciting, a fresh take on a cool concept that I've always enjoyed in the horror genre. And to hear me talk about, or to hear me talk about it, to talk about it with me, is the cinematographer for the project, Mr. Peter Buntaine. How you doing, sir?
Hey, great to be here. I'm doing well.
This film, man, 2020 and onward has brought us into a interesting time in both the world of filmmaking, but the world in general. And one thing that,
It's one way to put it.
yeah, but one thing, man, that has gotten a lot of shame thrown at it, that regardless of how you feel about it, I'm personally like, whatever you're going to do to make money, at least you're doing something to make money, is the whole cam girl phenomenon that has kind of taken over. And so
Right.
just on the clips and trailers of this film that I've seen, our protagonist is a cam girl. She is isolated alone in a cabin hall or up in the mountains, looks desolate. And then you guys use um, the classic of isolation. How is she going to survive with this home invasion? And it looks different than I would say the last few movies in this scenario. Just like I said, we've just gotten the trailer and clips sent to us. Like
All right. Yeah.
with the guys, he's on the roof in one of those shots, silhouetted, which looks, this is strictly your department. That shot looks fucking awesome, by the way, with her
Oh, thanks.
coming out of the
That's a bit of like a reference to Halloween. I think there's something similar.
yeah,
You get, yeah.
yeah, his stance is very Michael Myers.
Yeah. We do a few kind of like on the nose references in there. Like there's another bit where she throws on a Jason mask and then I think of in that same bit, she's taking a bath while she's doing her cam girl thing, and we give her the Nightmare on Elm Street like angle, or like
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
hand.
yeah.
I mean, no
Yeah.
hand comes out, but we just we do like we're horror fans, so we throw in a bunch of kind of like little references or like Easter eggs, where we can.
No, that's the best. That's the funnest part, man. Like when I was going to film school and all of us are, collabing and everything, like if you get similar genre interest on a project, the fun stuff is getting to kind of like feel like, hey, how can I pay homage to this? Or let's try to work this in or whatever.
Yeah, like trying to give the movie like trying to do our own thing, but then just kind of throwing in some references because it's kind of like you said, it's not like the most original material, like the idea of someone isolated and then like, someone trying to get them in their cabin, kind of like Cabin in the Woods movie, like that's a whole
For sure.
subgenre. So, I mean, the cam girl element, it's like a modern spin on it, but
Right.
we kind of took that to like the well-worn territory to be like, let's have a little fun with it, and I think you can even tell in the trailer that it's not exactly like it's not one of these horror movies that's gonna keep you up at night after. It's more like we're aiming for like a good time, you know what I mean, and like
Right.
throw in some thrills, but make sure there's some laughs in there too, and
It was a
that's some
popcorn movie.
sexy stuff. Yeah, it's like a popcorn movie, like
Yeah.
scary stuff, sexy stuff, funny stuff.
But this, what I think that you hit it on the head with the whole modernization of it, because you've got the whether or not you meant to do it because of the pandemic, but you got the fact that she's talking to her friends, but they're not immediately right there, and then you mix it in with the fact that she is a cam girl. There's your modernization
Yeah,
and all that stuff. So you do have like your guys's originality put on
sure.
top of the concept.
So we did make it during the pandemic, and then my buddy Jimmy, who directed the movie, Jimmy Giannopoulos, he wrote it during the pandemic, so it was very like pandemic. I mean, it's hard to, I think now a lot of these movies are coming out, I think, that were made in the pandemic. So they all have, and you can sort of tell people are wearing masks, or like, that movie Sick just came out, which is pretty great. I can only assume they made that movie during the pandemic. I don't know though. Anyways, movies that like made during the pandemic often take place during the pandemic, and it's where everyone's heads was at. And it was at that same time though, it's because of the pandemic. I was reading, at least saw these articles about how OnlyFans was like, just subscriptions going through the roof, and like people were becoming millionaires off this stuff, which is like just crazy. And I don't think the movie doesn't really take a judgmental angle one way or another on it. It's just sort of like, that's the premise, but it is a good premise for like a horror movie to like have, because that's what it is. One of her fans becomes sort of a little too obsessed with her and begins kind of killing people in her circle, like zeroing in on her. And then at the same time, there's a bunch of male relationships that she has, whether it's the neighbor, whether it's just different people you see around, and you're kind of like, it's one of these guys, you know what I mean? And but you don't know who it is, because when he interacts with her over our OnlyFans site, which is called 18 and Over in the film, but when he interacts with her, he's got tape over his camera, so she doesn't know who he is,
Got it.
Yeah.
That's one of those things, man, my day job, I teach high school, and now everybody has a device instead of like a textbook. And that's like one of the things that even the teachers, the first thing they do when they get their device is they'll put the tape over the webcam.
Yeah.
But this, you mentioned that the director, Jimmy, he is a friend of yours. So is this a relationship with him? Have you guys worked on films together previously?
Well, this is his second film. And his first film was called Birthday Cake, and I came in. I shot some days on Birthday Cake. I did some sort of like pickups, and I filled in for the director of photography a couple days, and then also I did some B camera on the big days. So we sort of met then on his last film. So, and then it was a couple years later, and yeah, we became sort of friends in the meantime, and then this new project lined up, and I just sort of, before I ever signed on officially, I sort of read the script and was trying to help him think through it, like, how many days would you need, or I don't know, or he would say, see, read this part, I want to do this shot like this, like, what do I need? And I'd give him like a gear list, so I was sort of helping him informally, and then it just sort of, when it came time to shoot it, we did it.
What was that filming like during the pandemic? Because everybody has kind of a different story about how
it was a nightmare. I'm so glad stuff's over. It was just, it's a simple film, it's like a cabin in the woods. We have like 2 or 3 locations of the whole movie, and like and it was just, it's one of these things that should have been so easy, but with this COVID stuff, it was so hard. I mean, the filming during COVID, first of all, the COVID protocols eats up like a quarter to a third of the film's budget. So it's just like a massive amount of money. And that just includes having the COVID staff there, and having these like tests that you have to rapid test them. And these are like PCR tests, not like the rapid ones that we do at home now. Those weren't even around yet, but these are like the PCR ones. So like we do them, and you'd have to like courier them to a lab, or they had these like little machines, like set up a lab on the side of this mountain where we were at. It was insane. There was limits as to how many people could be on set at once. They had to we had to leave the set and like pump the air in and out, like kind of all this, because everyone didn't really know what was going on back then. So a lot of it was probably overkill, and then a lot of it was, probably, I don't know, maybe good idea. It was just hard to say, but it made the whole process a nightmare. So, and I, around wear a mask, that, you weren't allowed to talk to each other at lunch because you had your mask down. So like,
man.
So the director and I we would always run and hide, because it was at lunch. We really needed to plan the next shot. So we had to hide. We had to do it on the sly. It was so absurd. So that part was a nightmare.
That situation of having to run the tests off a set, get the results, and then are you waiting to do anything until you get those results back?
Yeah, so that's cutting into like I think that's included when they say that like a third or quarter of the film's budgets were going to COVID. That was including the time you lose because
Wow.
that's just everyone like standing around for like an hour. And you
Gee.
can set up labs on site, but there was something to do with either the cold or the altitude. Like they couldn't do it where we were, so they had to run them down the mountain and then run them back. It
Man.
was all. I mean, I was glad to be working. Let me put it that way, but it was
For
not
sure.
easy. It was not easy.
The location in which you guys filmed it at, where are you guys at?
That's in Big Bear. So that's
Okay.
like a couple hours east of LA.
Yeah, yeah. It looks so it looks so Rockies. It's kind of wild that
Yeah,
SoCal
it's crazy.
has all that available like within a couple hours.
It really is. I'm kind of new out here too, and that made me it made me like it out here better. Yeah, I'm from the East Coast, so I was like, oh wow, I can you just get in the car and I can actually see snow. That's nice, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Instead, my cousin, they live in Boston right now, and they were here over the course of uh, which you guys know down south. I'm about 4 hours north of you, but they were over visiting over the course of like the 2.5 weeks of rain we got,
Oh yeah,
and they were tripping out on how much everybody was tripping out, and they were like,
yeah, right.
they were like, this is nothing. I'm
It's
gonna
a
go
little
home.
embarrassing. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, the I mentioned at the top when I brought you in, but one of the name that you cannot ignore. I was stoked, not just to see her doing anything, but the fact that she's returning to like actual acting is Pamela Anderson. That
Yeah, it was
that
a
is
real
really
dream to
cool.
work with her. Yeah, she's. I mean, I'm showing my age, but for guys my age, I mean, there's probably nothing better than meeting her. Because I just remember watching Baywatch when I was in grade school, and it was like the coolest thing ever. Like, and then meeting her was, and she was so great to work with. She was so professional. It was incredible. She doesn't have a huge part. She plays a sheriff, but she has
Mhm.
a big enough part. I mean, that was sort of how it went with Ashley Benson. She's the lead. It's like she's in every scene, and then there's a couple like every other part's small compared to hers basically. And one of the reasons for that is COVID. But Pamela Anderson's one of the larger secondary parts. We'll put it that way. She plays the sheriff. And she was great. I mean, she came up, she turned in a great performance. I mean, she's really funny. She like turned in like a comedic performance that like really no one was expecting, and she kind of even brought like a sort of like a southern twang to the character that the
Mhm.
director didn't tell her to do. But as soon as she did it, we were like, that's pretty funny. Like, let's go with that. She just came out.
The thing that is interesting about the whole her getting to act again is reading some of her interviews and stuff, and then of course Pam and Tommy comes out,
Right, right.
but it really does seem like she always wanted to be viewed as a serious, like, this is not only is this like a dream come true, but I belong here kind of a thing. So
Yeah.
when you say that she was like super professional and everything, that makes it sound like that she does like truthfully carry herself in that matter.
She absolutely does, and she was great. I mean, she's probably like, I mean, I don't, I, I'm not really sure how one measures this, but to me, she was like the biggest name on set. Like she's the most like famous. And like she sort of, but she didn't. And I've been in scenarios like that before, where you have like a couple days with like the big name actor or like the bigger, and like I and it sucks because they come in with a lot of attitude, or they think this or that, or they oh she's been on like real movies and real TV shows and stuff that were kind of like a rinky dink production compared to what she's used to, but she's just so kind, so generous. It was never like it was never a rush, or it was never like having to do stuff around her, like we
Right.
never, if for instance, in some of these scenarios, you'll shoot a whole scene and shoot every angle except for the one A-lister, and then you turn it around and just shoot their lines so that they
Mhm.
only have to show up for 15 minutes of an 8-hour day. but she wasn't like that. She was there for every take for the other actors to interact with. Like that's what a professional, I think I should do, like,
sure.
So she was great. Loved her. Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
I can totally relate because what got me, the doing into interviews and stuff is I now, run the panel production for a HorrorCon in Sacramento, and so I totally relate to the like meeting your hero, so to speak, and unfortunately, some of the
sometimes it's not great.
Yeah.
No, she was great. I mean, she was really, really lovely. So
but your main star Ashley, you mentioned that she, a lot of the days she's in every scene, and then there's a chunk of it that she's by herself essentially.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's her by herself or she's interacting with someone as she's doing her gig. What was that like? Don't want you to speak for the director, but cinematographer, director, actor, kind of that triad working relationship like as you guys kind of navigated doing this film.
Well, we definitely got pretty close, the three of us, because that was sort of the root of it. Ashley was great, and yeah, like you said, she had to do a lot of acting by herself, and then when she was doing her bits interacting with the computer, I mean, that's like green screen and stuff, because like there's like a whole interface for the app that had to be built, so it wasn't like so she's just I guess just being an actor, but she was great. But I really liked working with her a lot too. She's one of these people who you just be joking around with on set, and everything's cool, then the camera rolls and she's instantly into it, you know what I mean? So I just really impressive. And the way my background's in documentaries and it's definitely different working in fiction, but there's something that I would even do. And when I shot documentaries, I would not really be a fly on the wall per se. I'd like to really develop relationships with like the subjects in front of the camera, and I feel the same way with actors. And even if I'm filming over someone's shoulder and I need them to step a little bit, I got the camera, I'll just poke them on the other, and I like to have that level of relationship with the actor, and she's really like was so easy to work with. She was great, and I felt like she was amenable to that kind of stuff too. So with the permission of the director, of course, but just like kind of everyone vibing and like in a real collaborative atmosphere that wasn't so like hierarchical and was just like everyone was trying to get it done. It was really great.
The filming of fictional original screenplay versus documentary, what got me into film was kind of the reverse. But I'm going to LA Film, they make you make a film in every kind of like subgenre or work in everything. So I did a documentary about a friend's business, and I gotta say the amount of work that goes into film in general, but the amount of work that documentarians don't get enough shine for is the amount of like handheld stuff that you guys do, and the amount of prep that goes into configuring every aspect, because in the documentary like everything is kind of unpredictable because it's real life.
Sure. I mean, you can do your best to try and control it, but I think in documentaries it's also an endurance game. You just got to like film till something happens, and
for sure.
And just years, and documentaries that can take years to make, and and they're really hard to do. And I really love it, but that's sort of one of the reasons I'm trying to do more fictional work now, because it's like just more like a couple months of like hyper focused work as opposed to like just years. And like you don't know if whatever you're shooting any movie, you don't know if it's going to turn out well or not. But the best you can do is control your own work. But with a documentary, that could be just years of it, versus a couple months. So. But this film, you mentioned handheld. I mean, this film it's a lot of handheld in this movie, and it's sort of like our visual approach was kind of like keep it handheld, keep it like fast and loose, like almost a documentary style, but like have the lighting and other things be just really hyper stylized. I mean, like when, you know, if she goes outside at night in the woods, one of our kind of main conceits is just like making it just like a really pretty movie blue outside. Like not dark, just like really fake looking, but just that's just really like a popcorn flick, just like what you want to see. It's like, so we're like, let's make the lighting, you know, really colorful and really wild, and really kind of, you know, not really worry about realism, but just really make it fun. And then the camera work, let's just, you know, quick it, let's be close to our characters and just handhold it and walk around and keep the energy, almost a documentary energy up, and kind of try and marry those two styles. And that was our kind of approach for it. Although, you know, of course we do other stuff too that movies do. Like there's some, you know, whatever dollies and tripods, but it was a low budget film. So doing this kind of approach is helpful to get it all done too. Honestly, it's not just a stylistic choice in a vacuum. It's also like, what do you have the money for? Like, you know,
For sure. You know, it's making more out of less, I think, is
yeah,
the mantra of a lot of indie films, especially indie horror ones. Um, the thing that you just mentioned with her running in the woods and the style choices and everything, were you pretty collaborative with like the set designers and all that kind of stuff too, as far as you guys, you know, round tabling those kind of things to, hey, let's go for this, let's go for that?
for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and if I ever see a piece of like set design that I like, you know, I'm always trying to figure out, oh, let's feature it. Or like whenever I get on a set, I'll, you know, ask the art department, who is ever there from the art department, like, what are you all like what's the best prop here, you know what, maybe
Yeah.
I can pan over it, or maybe I'll just go tell Ashley, hey, just hang around over here, you know, just
Yeah.
trying to showcase everyone's work. And then if it's stupid, the editor can always cut it out later, right? So it's like just trying to get everyone like in there, get everything forward in there as much as possible. Although the woods, you know, the production design didn't do much with the woods. So it's just some great looking woods out there and the snow.
You guys mentioned all being horror fans. What was your childhood like? I'm forever a horror fan after seeing this film.
Oh man, I mean, it's really hard for me to think back to like what was I watching? I mean, I know because I know I saw The Shining like when I was really quite young, and I think the first like R-rated movie I saw was maybe like Predator.
Oh,
I don't know if that's R, or, and it's definitely not really a horror, but it was horrifying to me. Like, but I sort of, some of these movies I saw when I was too young just got me down the rabbit hole on that stuff. Um, and so I've been watching these movies for, you know,
long
as
time.
long as I can remember. Yeah, I mean, so for me, what was really big for me were the always the like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Like
Mm.
that was really what, I don't know if that was like the first horror movie I saw, but that was like a franchise I was like so into as a kid, and I was just also, you know, there's so many of them. Well, a lot of these old franchises, there's a lot of them, and I wasn't really that picky. I mean, people like Nightmare, like 5 or, you know, or 4, like some people really don't like these later ones, but for me they were all great. I just loved them all. And we drew on those for these movies. I mean, it's this movie, we always thought it would be sort of a streamer, like for streamers was sort of the
Mhm.
idea, when we were making it, especially because theaters were cut down. I mean, it just came out now, but we didn't know it was going to take so long to come out. But even if we did, a lot of these movies go straight to streamers anyways.
Oh, for
So
sure.
the way we started thinking about it was, you know, this is kind of like a made-for-TV movie we're doing. So it's like, so we kind of took our inspiration from some of the made-for-TV movies. The director's a little older than me, but we'll say for me, like from the 90s, like growing up, like, and that would include like some of the later entries into these, you know, major franchises, which I just think is so great because these franchises, like whether it's Halloween or whether it's Friday the 13th or like Nightmare on Elm Street, you get to like the 5th or 6th installment. These things are more or less direct to videos, and
Yeah.
they're getting more and more unhinged. I mean, they're definitely getting worse, but they're usually directed by some young person who's like, it's their first
For
film,
sure.
and they're just throwing it all at the wall. And there's some really amazing stuff in there. And it's just the experimentation's, great. The major inspirations for this one was a film Pumpkinhead, which I loved as a kid.
Yeah.
There's no creature in this one, but it's just the way they do the lighting in Pumpkinhead is really expressive, and the cinematography is so great in that. So that was a major touchstone for this, and we really worked off that one. And then also there's one called Demon Knight. It's like a Tales from the Crypt movie with Jada Pinkett. Yeah, so those are the two movies that really influenced the look most of all. I think those are maybe Pumpkinhead a theatrical release. Oh, and to circle back to your earlier question, I don't think Pumpkinhead was the first horror movie I saw, but that was the first horror VHS cover I saw. And I just remember the cover in Blockbuster and just being like, I need to see that. It just had his face on it. And I was like, looks amazing. Yeah, and I was sort of lusted after that movie for so many years before I saw it, and it did not disappoint.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Blockbuster VHS.
Yeah. So that ruled. But we did want to draw from, and the director had a lot of touchstones. Like we both loved Scream in those movies, and like we were talking about throwing in these little references earlier. Like we just wanted to pay homage in a lot of ways to just create like a kind of like fun horror movie for fans of the genre. That's just sort of like popcorn flick, that you would just kind of throw on and enjoy, and have some chuckles at the references that you probably catch, and it's silly.
The film, does it have a particular scene or sequence that when the fans see it, aside from like the Easter egg stuff, that hopefully they really like this, or that when they see it they're gonna be like, holy shit, that was pretty wild?
I think yeah, I don't know how to answer that. Hopefully they like it. I think the end of the film, sort of like the final kind of fight vibe. Like I think we did a pretty good job of that one, and I think there's some interesting stuff in there. From the cinematography standpoint, since a lot of the movie is her doing this OnlyFans thing, and so she's looking into the camera, she's interacting the way we're interacting. So this angle becomes important to the film, the head-on angle, because we see the point of view of this, we see the point of view of that. So then later in the film, we were shooting so much of that on her computer that it only, once she's sort of confronting the killer later on, 101, kind of only made sense to keep filming them in this way, like direct on, like not doing like, on the side of the frame or more traditional stuff, but just kind of do this like direct on stuff. And I think that language was pretty interesting, and it's something I hadn't played around with too much before. So I think that adds to this sort of effectiveness. It's kind of like has some kind of first person type vibes to it later in the film. But I'll tell you my favorite stuff to film was they watched this reality show in the movie, and it's in this reality show. It's like Paris Hilton hosts it, and it's like a bunch of the premises. It's a bunch of people like just quarantined in a house, and that's in like, and it's just it's like a parody of a reality show, and it's just really stupid. And we just rented a mansion, and we just like goofed around for a day and shot these fake reality show segments. And I mean, for me, that's my favorite. I hope people think that's funny, because I was dying when I was shooting it. And I was ever seeing some reviews, and then one review was like, the only thing about the movie is like, what is with all these reality show segments? I was like, I think it's one of the most fun parts, but I don't know. It's kind of, for me, it was kind of like a Verhoeven thing, or like, how you always like in RoboCop, it's all these like commercials and stuff.
Right.
That's how we were thinking about it, but I don't know if probably no one ever asked him that, so I don't know. But I hope people like that stuff.
The ideas that you guys did on that day, were you guys just like shouting out ideas of stuff that you had seen on reality TV at a certain point, or were you guys...
I think the director subjected himself to some reality TV, and then and everyone in the cast for that day, were a lot younger, so they know a lot more about reality TV than us. But it was just kind of like silly, over the top stuff. But
Reality TV.
Reality TV stuff, but also just just even dumber. Like what could we do? So that's just kind of silly stuff. But I like that stuff. We rented this like kind of mansion in LA. It was like, I guess it's the kind of place they rent to shoot reality TV, or I don't I don't really know.
Yeah.
It's just like a mansion. If someone lives there, but the decoration of it is like just so personalityless and like minimalist. It was like, all right, it's like kind of like an empty mansion, just having these kids run around.
The film, is it out in theater right now? Did it get like a mini theater run, or is it all streaming?
I think it's mainly streaming. I know it's in one theater in Coney Island in New York. I don't know on the West Coast. There's something. I think it's mainly streaming. I don't even know where it's playing. I know technically it's like out in theaters, but it's not really getting a proper theatrical. So
I got you.
It's on demand right now.
So yeah, look up, wherever.
Yeah, Alone at Night. It's on Prime. It's on iTunes. It's on Vudu. That's where I saw it on Vudu. And then
Right on.
There's some other ones too, I guess. But yeah, it's on pretty much all of them, I think.
Right on, man. And Peter, do you have anything? Yeah, are you staying away from the documentary side? Do you got any like other like horror movies or anything else that you got lined up that
I've been nothing to talk about right now. I wish I could. I'm working on some stuff, but nothing worth talking about quite yet.
I got you.
Yeah.
Where can everybody kind of keep track? Are you on like Instagram or anything? See what you're up to?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. Peter_Buns. You just Google me, Peter Buntaine. It comes up. Yeah, I go to my Instagram. It's mostly landscape photos, but if you catch the stories, you might see what I'm up to. Yeah.
Right on, man.
That's it.
I'm telling you guys, if you haven't seen the trailer or any of the clips that I've gotten to check out of Alone at Night, you're gonna dig it. Definitely go to your streaming service and make a night of it. Maybe watch some OnlyFans before you watch the film. Do whatever the hell you're gonna do to put yourself in the mood. But I can't wait, man. This one looks like a fun one, and I cannot wait to check it out in its entirety, as should all of you watching or listening. And Peter, thank you for the time doing the interview with us, man.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.